right. What's up? What's up? Let's just say my connection is low. Okay, a little better here. All right, so I was just talking to a client. He was asking some of my thoughts on Clubhouse, and I figured I would share some of my thoughts here, just because I think there are some valuable things that go beyond like anything to do with Clubhouse. But it is, if you kind of understand the history, it's kind of like everything that we've seen in financial markets, that it just becomes very, very predictable. And if you've been in the kind of scene of startups or paying a lot of attention, kind of the story of what's going on here, it's always a new twist. But it's interesting for me to see some similarities in some other deals that were very interesting to me when they came on the market. Now, I was making a lot of money, and these things have been interesting for me for years, because my very first acquisition that I made was in existence and made a ton of money from startups that got a ton of money from Silicon Valley. And I was a beneficiary of that and was greatly appreciative until a lot of those businesses went out of businesses. In some cases, like a web van, where it was just before its time. DoorDash was essentially what web vans in essence was trying to create, but it was just a few tweaks in the model that they were trying to own the vans, just like different things where it was like, okay, this could become something one day, but the way it is right now, it won't be. All right, so one of the things that I noticed early on with Clubhouse was they had the famous athletes, the famous rappers. Basically pay them to come in, and that made people get really interested and pulled a lot of people in. I think anytime you've got something where there is a ton of buzz before they've done anything, it's usually manufactured. And so they're trying to create the buzz, which isn't a bad thing. That part is a good thing. And, when you can get Gary Vee to come on and he's like, oh, this is my new favorite place to scream and yell the same thing I've been yelling for the last 15 years, then that boosts you even more. So having all of that buzz is really interesting. Now, one of the things that's interesting though is when you keep people from coming in and experiencing this. We saw this most recently with the superhuman email thing, where people were just like, there was just a ton of demand. You can sometimes hurt yourself because you're not letting people in, and so those people aren't getting to experience it. And then if the hype doesn't measure up once they get there, it's disappointment, as opposed to just having a simple app. And so the fact that you had to find somebody to invite you and that kind of thing, it helps to build the buzz, but the buzz has to live up to the hype. Or you just get a bunch of people that come in, they download it, they go in one day and they walk away, and they never come back and do it again. The other thing that always kind of perks my ear up when I see these startups, and I saw it a ton back in 2000, saw it again in kind of the 2011 area. And so, when you have somebody and they start talking about things that are kind of simple, but in like ways like it's revolutionary. And so, talking about like the essence of human communication has always been voice. The caveman used voice. Now we're bringing voice to the internet. It's just like, okay, like that's a little much. That's a little over the top, but still, all of that is great. And it's even more beautiful when, you don't have any income, you don't have any users, but you see your, in a matter of a year, see your valuation go from 5 billion to 25 billion to 100 million to a billion. So all of that is beautiful. But when you break down the basics and the kind of the foundation of the social media business model, what you have on one side is creators, and what you have on the other side is consumers. So you've got these creators that are creating stuff, and you have these consumers that are consuming the things that are being created. And this is probably the most important thing, I think, where hopefully it doesn't go out of business, but this is where I think Clubhouse is going to have just a very tough time, is the curation. So what YouTube knows when I go to YouTube is that there are all these videos, and 70% of videos are just terrible. They're a total waste of everybody's time. Nobody should ever see them. Maybe that person's family, friends, da, da, da. There's another, it's probably really 30% is too high. There may be a 20% that's like actually decent. But even out of that, 99.9% of the 20% that any human should watch isn't of interest to me. And YouTube knows that. And so they're able to dig from years and years of content. Crap, let me turn this thing off. So I'm going to keep getting people messaging me. So they I'm sorry. So they can go back in history, and this algorithm is looking through years and years and billions of minutes of video and trying to find the things that I'm interested in. And that's really the only value that YouTube can create. And so with every app, the number one thing that app is trying to do, when you open that app, they say you basically have a max of 10. You have a max of 10 seconds, but the goal is 7 seconds. In 7 seconds, they need you to have a dopamine hit. And, some people call it TTD, like time to dopamine. Like, I need you to see something that basically makes you happy or pulls you into this app within 7 seconds. The idea that Clubhouse is going to be able to do that, and this is already what's hurting them, is that people are getting in. And if you've been in the app, you just know, like, you got to go from conversation to conversation. If you don't get that conversation right at the beginning, you get it in the middle, you don't know what's going on, so you're lost. For them to be able, in a live environment, to be able to find the thing that you're interested in and give it to you, and for those people to be live, is really, really difficult. So that's a major problem, and we've already seen it. I mean, that's the funny thing would be like, we'll see what happens, but so far I haven't seen anything that makes this different than even Fireside. Like, Fireside had this model, like, it went out of business. This thing should be worth $1 billion. It's pretty hilarious. So that is kind of that major problem. So then you say, okay, well, why don't we just record these? Because right now people are going to come to the app. They're not going to see what they want. And then they're going to leave and they're going to go to Instagram. They're going to get that dopamine hit because Instagram has it dialed in. They're going to go to TikTok. They're going to get it, and it's going to be dialed in. But I think the downside to the recording and trying to make it like maybe a podcast is, obviously, number one, podcasts already exists. Number two, the whole point of Clubhouse is that it's live. You're not supposed to record. It's supposed to be a little bit more flagrant. It's supposed to be off the cuff. And so you have those things that are really, it just goes against the model, and you're up against podcasts, which is just, I don't know how you say, hey, we have this platform that's kind of like podcasts, and it's worth multiple billions of dollars. So you realize that let's just dig into, what did those original users that loved us, what did they want? What did they love about this? So, you ask them, you survey them, and what a lot of the people that love the app Clubhouse, what they talk about online, if you hear people who have really promoted, a lot of the stories aren't things that can be recreated. It's like, I was in a room and Mark Andreessen, the billionaire, was in there, or Joe Budden, I guess he's not a rapper anymore, but podcast host, was in there, and they pulled me up and I got to talk to them. And then like some other people saw me, so they friended me, and I got to connect with them, not on Clubhouse, but on Instagram. And then we become friends and da-da-da. So there's two components of that. It's like, okay, we can't get Mark Andreessen to just talk to everybody. We can't get Joe to talk to everybody, especially since Joe's upset that he didn't get any equity after promoting that app and doing all that work and getting the people excited about it by interacting with them. So we can't recreate that. And so like, but there is that other part where it's like they got to connect with other friends and they met some new people. And so a big part of, I think, the draw is if you're a lonely person, you can get on there and start to talk to people in real life. It's not a recording. And that's why I think the recording thing wouldn't work. So you move to this model where it's about meeting new people. The biggest downside to that model is if you're going somewhere as a person that's lonely, you're not bringing friends. If you're looking to make friends and that's what the point of the app is, then that is an interesting model, but you lose what would make it a multi-billion-dollar business like Facebook, like Instagram. Instead, there's a certain aspect to those which you're bringing the friends with you. You're not going there looking for friends. You're not bringing your friends with you to Tinder to have some interactive kind of thing. So, those are some of the just high level things that are interesting to me. We'll see what happens. I'd love to see it really blow up. I think the end goal, and this is really important, this is important for you guys as financiers. I think the end goal and the reason they've done this way is to specifically sell this to a old school tech company, and we'll see if something like this happens. But the way that they're building this, it's, with the hype and with kind of forcing the valuation up and, getting a lot of PR around something that is really just a chat room with voice. I mean, this is with something that's already existed before. I mean, just like this literal app existed with Fireside, which went out of business. And so when you're doing something like that, it's like the Regis and WeWork thing. It's like Regis literally already has all the offices and it's a $2 billion company. Like, how are y'all going to justify this as 30 billion? And it doesn't have the revenue that Regis has. So I think that it'll be interesting to see, but I think that what will end up, or what really the goal is, even more than a business or a business model or any of that, is to build up this hype, and then some old school tech company can come in, buy it, and that will help their stock just based off of that acquisition. Tell me what y'all's thoughts are below. Thanks for popping in. That's just a conversation, and I'll be back live later on, maybe even today, if not tomorrow. Thanks for popping in, Sherry. Thanks for popping in, Darius. I appreciate it. Talk to y'all soon.